Hi, Dick Rauscher here. Welcome back to the Stony Hill Nugget video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the article number 265, Intentional Self-Awareness is Critical for Success and Happiness. This article is the result of a lot of years of doing psychotherapy with folks and also as a life coach. Back in the 70s, I was into the back to the land movement. I was homesteading, raising goats, bees, farming, had a couple horses, a lot of turkeys, a lot of chickens, that kind of stuff, okay? We were raising almost all of our own food. We were pretty much self-reliant. One day, I noticed an old tractor sitting out behind a farmer's barn down the road. He's about 2 miles away from us. And I stopped and asked him if that tractor was for sale. And he said, no, but you can have it if you take it out of my yard. So I agreed. And that was another learning, but that's another story. So we'll get into that another time. But at any rate, I finally got it back to our place, to our 27 acres that we were homesteading on. And obviously had no clue how to get it running again. There was an old farmer down the way that someone told me about, and I went and talked to him, and he said that, yeah, he could get it going, and he said he'd come around and take a look at it. So what he did is he took the pan off the bottom of the engine block and put a jack in there, and he jacked the tractor up in the air, pushing on the cylinder heads, or on the crankshaft. So then he did something that really amazed me. He took all the spark plugs out, and took cans of Coca-Cola and poured them into each of the cylinder heads. And then said that he'd be back. But before he did, we had a beer and we talked a little bit. And one of the things we talked about is he said that all the astronauts went to the moon and brought back an illness, a disease, and he's convinced of it, that's killing all the trees, okay? Now, this was before he had more than one beer. I mean, he really believed that. So, at any rate, he went home, came back about 2 weeks later, literally, and we decided that we would take a look and see if we could get the tractor running, which we did. He banged and pounded on the crankshaft, and eventually there was a loud bang and the whole tractor settled down. That Coca-Cola had actually eaten all the rust and had allowed the engine to break free. So long story short, we got it running, had a couple more beers, and then he blew my mind. He said, you know, that moon landing, that was just a government hoax. He said, they never went there. He said, it's just that damn government trying to get our money, and then he went off on his little rant. Well, what he didn't realize is that he kind of changed my life path in those two statements, because I was intrigued with the fact that somebody could believe two directly opposing beliefs at the same time and not be aware of it. The fact that they did go, they brought back a disease, and the second one is they didn't go, it was all just a hoax, okay? And the thing that was so important about that was that he believed both of those emphatically. I mean, with emotion, he believed them. So the learning that this article is talking about is very simple, but profoundly important, I believe, for success and happiness. I thought at the time, how could anyone have 180-degree conflicting beliefs? And today, as a therapist and life coach, I can tell you it's extremely common. Let me give you a couple of examples. A lot of people believe that they're compassionate. They truly believe it. And yet they can walk by people on the street who are starving and not even see them, okay? Another one, people are totally immersed in health. They have a firm, compassionate, or a firm belief that they are living a healthy life, and yet they eat very poorly and they do no exercise. Another one, they feel like they flow with what is. They kind of take life as it comes, and yet at the same time, they're very judgmental, controlling of other people. And the need to be right is very powerful. So this idea that they're kind of flowing with life is not the way they're behaving. Another one, people are convinced that they are loving people, and yet they have a deep fear of intimacy. So the question, of course, that arises out of that is how can you be a loving person if you have a fear of intimacy? Another one is a lot of people, and they really firmly believe this one, they are really good listeners. And yet they never stop talking and interrupting other people long enough to hear what the other person's really saying, okay? This flow and this judgmental is kind of underscored by the need to be right, okay? So a need to be right is almost always the imperative voice of absolute truth, which is 180 degrees from flowing with reality or flowing with life, okay? So why is this important, okay? Yes, people can hold opposing belief systems, okay? And they can believe them passionately. Why is it important? Very, very simple explanation. This is the key to this article. Until we know how our brains work, we can't create our life. And yet, every single life that we're living, the life in the past, the life in the present, and the life we want to create in the future is our full responsibility. In other words, we are responsible for the life that we're living, the life that we've been living, and the life that we want to live. So how can you take full responsibility for your life and the future of your life if you don't have a clue how your brain works? Interesting, right? So, as a therapist and life coach, one of my primary goals is helping people understand how their brain works. In other words, what are these conflicting beliefs that are getting in the way? Now, I'll talk a little bit more about that right at the end. But self-awareness is nothing more than investing in yourself and learning how to tame your ego, to take control, to pay attention to how you're feeling and what you're thinking about and how you're reacting and acting in the world, and what are those knee jerks and where did they come from? Where does that energy come from that we're sending out into the world? Okay, because it's going to be messing up our relationships and our ability to create a successful life if we don't have a clue what we're doing, right? Makes sense. So, one of the things that we're doing is we're taming our ego. One of my common comments in my articles is our ego has a very unhealthy and inflated sense of our own importance. Well, if we're going to walk around the world as little rulers, we're not going to have very good relationships, and we're not going to be particularly successful because we're always shooting ourselves in the foot. So until we tame our ego and learn how our brain is actually working, it's almost impossible to have a successful and happy life. And I mean that literally. It's almost impossible. In fact, the harder we try, the more frustrated and impatient with ourselves we're going to get, the more self-esteem issues we're going to have, because we're trying really, really hard, but we haven't done our homework. We don't really understand how our brain is working and how it's getting in the way. So, self-awareness is accepting reality and letting go of our beliefs. Just think of how many people have a firmly held belief, and that belief is 180 degrees from what reality is. So, again, what we need to do is to learn to good self-awareness or high level of self-awareness is learning to accept reality, not our beliefs. Our beliefs are open to change, or can be. Reality is what it is, okay? So the more we can accept that and challenge our belief, tame our ego and its need to be right, the happier we're going to be, because we're not fighting the universe all the time, right? Okay, let me leave you with this thought. Life is a dance, not a journey. If you think about it, we play music. We don't work music, we play music. And the goal isn't to get to the end of the music, it's to play the music, right? Same thing with a dance. If you're going to dance, the whole concept of the dance is a process of dancing. It's not to get to the end of the dance. So if we look at this, then we can say life is not a journey, it's a dance. We should be treating it like music. The goal is not getting to the end. The goal is enjoying the process of getting there, of actually living our lives. And yet, our system, our economic system particularly, is totally focused on the goal. Get the degree, get an advanced degree, get a good job, make a lot of money, buy a lot of good stuff, then retire, and then live a really happy, successful retirement into old age. It's like everything we do is designed for the next goal, the next step, the next thing to get to the end, instead of just taking life as a dance. So the question I would leave you with is this. We already have all of the happiness that there is if we can awaken our consciousness and pay attention to what's in the way. If we already possess all the happiness there is in the universe, then the important question, the critical question becomes, so how's our brain messing it up that we're missing it? What's our brain doing that we're not paying attention to that fact? If we already possess all the happiness there is, why don't we experience it? What's our brain doing to keep us from experiencing it? Really, really important question. And if we can answer that question through growth and self-awareness, then happiness and success is almost guaranteed. Not to get to the end, but happiness and success as a dance through life.